Imagine sitting at your trading desk, charts glowing, the market moving in ways that feel familiar yet unpredictable. You've read books, you've studied strategies, maybe you've even come across Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a book celebrated worldwide, written by a Nobel Prize winner, and it dives into the way humans think: fast, intuitive, emotional on one side, and slow, deliberate, rational on the other. But here's the truth most traders completely miss. You can read Thinking Fast and Slow a dozen times and still blow up your trading account if you don't understand how those two systems of thinking actually manifest inside your trading decisions. This is where most people fail. They admire the psychology, but never translate it into structural change. And that's what we're going to uncover today, because once you see it, you'll never trade the same way again. Let me ask you something. How many times have you seen a perfect setup on your chart? Everything lines up, the confluences are there, but instead of executing, you hesitate, you second guess, you let fear creep in? Or maybe the opposite. You jump in too fast, impulsive, just because the candle looked right at that second. That's Kahneman's world alive in trading. System 1, the fast, emotional brain, and System 2, the slow, deliberate brain, colliding in every decision you make. The book lays this out with stories and experiments, but traders often stop at theory. They don't translate it into what really matters. How do you design your trading environment so your System 1 impulses don't sabotage your System 2 intentions? That's the gap. Now think about this. Most traders live almost entirely in System 1 when they're in the market. They think they're rational, but they're actually reactive. They react to price spikes, to sudden moves, that's to fear of missing out, to the pain of seeing red numbers on the screen. They react to what's happening in front of them rather than executing a plan. Kahneman explains that System 1 is quick. It jumps to conclusions. It seeks patterns even when they're not there. Doesn't that sound like the trader who sees setups everywhere, who convinces themselves this is the one trade that will flip their account? Who feels the rush of urgency when there's no structural reason for urgency at all? That's not rational trading. That's bias-driven gambling dressed up in charts. Here's where it gets worse. System 2, the slow, deliberate thinker, loves to conserve energy. It's lazy. Kahneman says the brain is wired to avoid effort, and that's why most people don't engage deep, rational thought unless they absolutely have to. In trading, that means when your System 2 should be active, when you should be checking your rules, confirming your model, executing with precision, it often steps aside. It lets System 1 take the wheel, because that's easier, faster, more exciting. And then you wonder why your results are inconsistent. Now pause for a second. What if I told you that the entire purpose of having a trading model is not to predict the market, not even to give you setups, but to train your nervous system to bypass System 1 and lock into structured System 2 engagement? That's what most people miss, not just in Kahneman's book, but in trading entirely. The model isn't about accuracy. It's about discipline. It's a bridge between two worlds, the impulsive brain and the deliberate brain. Without that bridge, you'll keep trading like everyone else, trapped in System 1 illusions. Let's make this interactive. Think back to your last losing streak. Was it really the market's fault, or was it System 1 taking over? Did you overtrade? Did you cut winners too early? Did you move your stop loss because it felt too tight? Those weren't strategic decisions. Those were emotional reflexes. Kahneman calls them heuristics, mental shortcuts the brain takes because it doesn't want to think deeply. But in trading, shortcuts equal death. And until you recognize that you're not just fighting the market, you're fighting your own mind, you'll never break free. Now let me hit you with something radical. Kahneman explains cognitive biases like anchoring, availability, loss aversion. Most traders nod their heads thinking, yes, I know these biases. But knowing isn't enough. If you read Thinking Fast and Slow and all you got was awareness of bias, you've missed the point. You don't overcome bias by awareness. You overcome bias by structure. By building a system that forces you to act in line with your slow, deliberate brain, even when your fast brain is screaming at you to do the opposite. That's why repetition, ritual, and structure matter more than motivation. That's why intentionality beats emotion every single time. Let's break one down: loss aversion. Kahneman proved that humans feel the pain of a loss twice as strongly as the pleasure of a gain. In trading, that's why people cut winners too early and let losers run. It's not lack of knowledge, it's neurological wiring. If you don't build a structure that predefines your exits, your System 1 brain will always sabotage you in the moment. This is why consistency is rare. Not because the market is too random, but because the trader is too unstructured. Now I want you to reflect. What's your biggest enemy right now? Fear, greed, impatience? All of those are System 1 emotions. Kahneman never wrote Thinking Fast and Slow for traders, but if he did, the message would be crystal clear. Your System 1 brain will always dominate unless you build a structural environment where System 2 has no choice but to take over. That's what trading discipline really means. Not motivation, not willpower, but designing your process so only your deliberate brain can execute. So here's the million-dollar question. How do you actually do that? Let's walk through it. First, you must write down your rules. If they live in your head, System 1 will override them. Second, you must rehearse those rules until they become muscle memory. Third, you must review your trades not just for profit and loss, but for compliance. Did you obey your System 2 structure, or did System 1 hijack the wheel? Fourth, you must create friction for bad behavior. Make it harder to act impulsively, easier to act intentionally. That might mean limiting screen time, automating parts of your system, or using accountability measures. Fifth, you must rewire your identity. Stop calling yourself a trader who fights the market. Call yourself a trader who executes the model. Identity is everything, because your brain follows the story you tell it. Notice what we've done. We've taken Kahneman's ideas, System 1 versus System 2, heuristics, biases, and we've translated them into practical structure. This is what traders miss. They read the book as psychology, not as design. But the real transformation happens when you turn psychology into intentional architecture, when you move from theory to embodiment. Let me make this even clearer. Think of System 1 as the gambler, System 2 as the architect. If you don't let the architect design the structure, the gambler will keep throwing dice. Kahneman showed us why the gambler always feels right, why the gambler sees patterns that don't exist, why the gambler convinces you this time will be different. But if you let that gambler run your account, you already know the outcome. Structure is the only way forward. Now here's where most traders fall into another trap. They think awareness alone will save them. They say, I know about biases, I know about emotions, I'll control them. But Kahneman himself admitted, even after decades of studying bias, he still falls for them. Awareness doesn't cure anything. Only design does. Only intentional structures, checklists, models, rules, accountability can consistently override your fast brain. That's the lesson traders missed. So let's bring this home. Thinking Fast and Slow isn't just a book about psychology. It's a book about why humans fail when they don't respect structure. As a trader, your enemy is not the market. Your enemy is your System 1 brain. Your ally is not your knowledge. Your ally is your System 2 structure. And the difference between the 90% who fail and the 10% who succeed is simple. Most live in System 1 chaos. A few build System 2 structures. Which side will you choose? I want you to think about this every time you trade. Every time you hesitate, every time you rush, every time you feel the urge to break your rules. Ask yourself, is this System 1 or System 2? And then ask the deeper question, have I designed my environment so System 2 always wins? If not, that's where your work begins. And if this episode has challenged you, if it has opened your eyes to the truth that most traders miss in thinking fast and slow, then I want you to do two things right now. First, subscribe to Trading Rebels, because this is just the beginning. Every week, we're going deeper. Books, psychology, philosophy, structure, things no one else is teaching traders at this level. Second, comment below and tell me which part of your trading you think System 1 is sabotaging the most. Is it overtrading? Fear of missing out? Cutting profits too soon? Let's put it on the table, because once you name it, you can start to build the structure that destroys it. Remember this, prediction is a lie. Accuracy won't save you, but structure, true intentional structure, will. And if you build it, your mind will finally align with your trades. You'll stop reacting and start creating. That's what it means to be a trading rebel.